All right, let's talk about imposter syndrome and the number one way to counter that feeling in bookkeeping. So I made a video about this a while back, and it was very popular and still is. And but I still get a lot of people emailing me and talking to me about that feeling of feeling like they're an imposter. And I don't think I put in that first video a way to kind of get around it, or I may not have talked about this particular way. So the way to get around feeling like that you're not good enough to be a bookkeeper when you're first starting out, this is very common. And since I do bookkeeping and taxes, it's a feeling that I've always felt, still do to this day after 20 years. It just changes some. It's not as common, I guess, but it's still there. I guess I just don't feel it as much as I used to, but there are still situations because since I have been doing this for such a long time, there's a higher expectancy on me that I should know everything there is to know about taxes and bookkeeping. And the reality is that it's one of those things that you're always going to be learning. You'll never know it all. I know CPAs that have been doing taxes for 50 years, and I'm on some boards, some forums that they're on, that they still go back and forth on different issues. And so because of the complexity of accounting in general, and the changes that occur over time, there's always more to learn, which means there's always deficiencies in your knowledge. And it's those deficiencies that lead us to feeling like we are an imposter. So one way to really knock that feeling down, is to know your boundaries. When I first started, I was so hungry and desperate. I moved out to California with no money and no clients, no job, and a big slap in the face of cost of living out here. I was very afraid, and so I had to make some things happen, and I felt like I'm an imposter the whole time because I was so new to it all, and I was so new to the area. But one of the things that I learned over time, unfortunately I didn't have somebody telling me in the beginning this, but knowing your boundaries is extremely important to not getting into an area where you really don't know what you're doing, you don't know what you're talking about. And that's I just saw somebody turn right with a left turn signal. Anyways, not overstretching the job and not taking on clients that get into that area that's more complex than what you're ready for or used to is one big way. It's kind of like staying in your comfort zone. The more you're in your comfort zone, the less you feel like an imposter. So if you are really, really good at something, you obviously don't normally feel like an imposter. But when you take on a job or a client and it's really stretching your abilities, which is important to do in order to grow experience-wise. So it's a balance. So you do want to go into areas that are a stretch for you, but you don't want that stretch to be so much that you kind of get in over your head. You only want to be slightly in over your head, and because that's where you really learn fast. But you also have to balance out that there's going to be this fear and this imposter syndrome going on. And that really only applies when you're trying to get the job. and then maybe when you're talking to the client at later dates. But once you get the job, the feeling of imposter syndrome is really because of somebody else's view of you, or what you think their view is you thinking that somebody else thinks, oh, he doesn't know what he or she doesn't know what they're doing. And so that's really where that feeling derives from. But if there's no one else around to make you feel like that, then you wouldn't feel like that. So that feeling is really only around when you're trying to get the job. When you have a potential client on the line, you're talking to them, they're asking, or they're telling you what their needs are, and you may say to yourself, I don't know if I can do this, and or this is quite a stretch for me. This is going to take a lot of research. That's fine. You're not expected to know everything, and potential clients don't expect you to know everything, and believe it or not. So the trick is to not bite off more than you can chew. Don't take on clients or projects that are way beyond your expected ability. They can be big enough and enough stretch to where you have to research them and ask questions from people in the community or around you, myself. That's fine. But if it's too big of a stretch to where it would be almost impossible to accomplish it, you don't want to take those on. So just stay within there's a comfort zone, and then a little outside of that is a sort of comfort zone. So as long as you stay within those two, imposter syndrome will be at a minimum. And when you're just starting out, you're like, well, I don't have any experience. That's why it's really important to do as I say in other videos, which is select easy clients, and I talk about what an easy client is, or your easier clients. So check out the other video I have on that, on selecting clients. But that's my recommendation for imposter syndrome, is to try not to stretch too far. It's okay to stretch a little bit, and if you stay within your comfort zone, and the little zone around that, which is your semi-comfort zone, little slightly discomfort zone, you'll be all right, and your imposter syndrome will go way down. Your fear of failing will go way down, and you should be in good shape from there. It's always good to be a little bit afraid, and to stretch yourself. So don't be afraid to stretch yourself, just not too far. All right, I hope that helps. Have a good day. Take care.